The goal when you're wearing foundation is to not look casket sharp and to not look like an Oompa Loompa. So we're going to help you find that nice middle ground to have your skin looking like a second skin. Hey beauties, and welcome back. It's me, Lydia Marie. Welcome back to the channel. Y'all, I am barefaced for a reason, because today we're going to get down and dirty with the basics of choosing, applying, and figuring out the right foundation for you. This is kind of makeup beginner 101, but I love to teach, so we're going to get into this tutorial. I hope to make this nice and quick. I'm trying not to get my videos over 10 to 12 minutes long to kind of hold the attention of the audience. So we're going to try to get this and wrap it up nicely in a bow, and hopefully when you watch this video you'll come out with a better understanding of how to choose your foundation, how the best way to apply it is, especially if you are over 40 and especially if you are a woman of color. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. So if you would like to see my tips on applying, choosing, and wearing a foundation, I hope that you will keep watching. If you're new here, hey, my name is Lydia Marie. Welcome to the channel. I mainly do beauty content for women over 40, but everybody is welcome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss a thing. Let's go ahead and get into this quick tutorial. First things first is you want to make sure that your skin is prepped properly before you go and put on any type of foundation. I personally like to do a nice micellar water, like a cleansing water, over my face with a cotton ball. Let that dry down. Then I do like an exfoliating pad like this one from First Aid Beauty. This just gives me a nice exfoliating treatment, and it makes sure that any dead skin cells are removed and that the foundation will just lay nice and smoothly. I also like to make sure that I am hydrated, so I do my regular moisturizer, like something like this from Kiehl's, and then I go in with a moisturizing primer. If you are not someone who wears a primer, then just go ahead in with your moisturizer. But you don't want to put foundation on a face that is not clean, that is not exfoliated, and that is not moisturized. When it comes to picking out a foundation, there are so many on the market. You have drugstore, you have high-end, you have that you can get from a department store, all types of formulas. The way that I suggest trying a new foundation is to go and get a sample. For that, you would have to go to a store like Sephora, or even like to the MAC counter, or to a department stores. Those type of places will offer samples, but I know for sure Sephora is back to giving foundation and complexion product samples. You just have to ask the store rep, I want to try this foundation, can I get this as a sample? And they'll give you like a little container with probably about 2 or 3 applications worth, and you can take it home and try it out. I do not suggest, I personally am a fan of try before you buy, especially if it's a brand that's new to me, or if it's a foundation formula that is new to me. Shopping in the drugstore is a little bit different because you can't try those on, right? A lot of places, well, sometimes Ulta will have like testers in the front, but you can use like the little sponges in the store to try those on, but it's a little bit more difficult. And two, when you're trying on a product in the store, you have their overhead fluorescent lights that give you a different shade than what you see when you go out into natural sunlight, which brings us to the next tip. A couple factors to consider when you want to buy a foundation. You want to know your skin type. I have normal to dry skin. I tend to get drier around my cheek area, and I tend to get a little bit dry right here, but I do have some oiliness and separation here. So that would be normal to combination skin. I say more normal to dry because I'm more dry than I am oily. So if you know you have oily skin, meaning throughout the day your skin gets shiny, you want to look for a foundation that has oil-free properties in it, because you don't want any excess oil combining with the natural oils of your skin already. And this also goes back to skin prep. You still want to moisturize your skin even if you have oily skin. If you're someone like me who has more dry skin, you want to look for products that say hydrating. You want to look for products that say lightweight, because you don't want any heavy cakiness or anything settling into your lines. Depending on what type of product you want to use. I prefer liquids over cream because they're more blendable, they're more versatile, and these are the most popular type of foundations, the liquid type of foundations. But they do have creams, they do have powder foundations. If you're someone who just likes a quick applications, they have powders. So figuring out what type of foundation you like would also be an initial step. Now let's talk about shade matching. I am barefaced for a reason because I want you all to see the shades that I currently have in my collection. Number one, your shade changes throughout the year. I'm a black woman. I have multiple shades of my skin. I'm lighter around here, I'm lighter here in the middle, and I'm darker on my cheeks. So finding a foundation that covers everything means that you need to match it to the most prominent area of your face, which for me, which would be right here. My biggest thing, I guess this is coming from like a makeup artist perspective, is to swatch it on your décolleté or your chest. Because if your foundation matches here, it's going to look seamless all the way up. Now understand that in the store, you can't really just take it down and swatch it on here, which is why tip number one is to get a sample if you can. If you are not in position to swatch it on your chest, your next best bet is going to be swatching it right along here, or even swatching on your neck. If it matches from your neck on up, it's going to just look like a seamless finish. There'll be no lines of demarcation, anything like that. The worst place to match your foundation is on your arm, over here, or on the back of your hand. These areas do not match your face, especially if you're a black woman. These do not match your face. We have different pigments in us, so it's not going to be like this matches me. No, when you put it on, this can match you, but your chest is going to be looking lighter or darker. It's a mess. So we want to match our foundation here if you can, but here specifically if you can. And you can see in the two clips that I inserted, the Maybelline foundation that I swatched here is a little bit darker because that's my summer color. In the summer, I get more tan, I get more golden, so my tan and my goldenness comes out a little bit more, which makes my skin darker. You know how that works. If you tan, you get darker, right? And this one that I swatched in the middle is my current color now because my summer tan has sadly faded away. But these are the ways that I can match my foundation when I get home. I'm like, which one matches? This one, the one that melts into your skin or looks most like skin, is going to be your best match. So let's do some swatching on my face so I can show you. So here I have two foundations. This is my Dior, and this is the shade 410W, and this is my House Labs, and this is the shade 330 Medium Cool. So these right now will be the closest ones to my complexion. So let me grab a brush here, or you can do this with your fingers. I just hate makeup on my fingers. I don't know why. It's just a quirk. So we're going to swatch the House Labs first, and I'm just going to put this kind of like right here. And you see how that just kind of disappears? Second skin. And then I'm going to do the Dior right next to it. This one has a warmer finish to it, but it's still a good match. And you see how they just melted in. Now I'll show you one on this side that is more of my summer color so you can compare the two. Okay, these are two colors that I wear in the summer. This one, which one was that? This one is the Maybelline Fit Me, and this one is the Givenchy Prism Libre. These two are more of a darker shade, but still a warmth to them. We'll get to Undertones next because I know y'all want to know about those. So this is the Maybelline Fit Me. And as you can see, it matches. It's just a little bit darker than these. And then we have the Givenchy Prism Libre. And that too is just a tad darker, right? So this is my now color, my winter shade. These are my darker shades for summer, which are a little bit more golden, a little bit more peachy undertone type of things. But you can see the, oh, I wiped it off, sorry. But you can see the difference between the colors here and the colors I swatched over here. And again, let me see, the Maybelline here, as you can still see, it's a little dark here. And then the which one was that? The Dior over here. So this one melted in, this one is a little bit dark, but those are my shades for the winter and the summer. So let's talk about everybody's favorite topic, undertones. When it comes to undertones, this is a major step in determining what foundation shade will look good on you, because there are foundation shades that may say golden neutral or may say golden cool or something like that. So the undertones are warm, cool, and neutral, and then there are some olive, which can also be considered neutral as well. So if you have a cool undertone, the best way to check it, not the best way, but one of the tried and true ways to check it is the vein test in your arms. If you look at your veins and they run more blue, you likely have a cool undertone. If you look at your veins and they run more green, you likely have a golden undertone. If you have a mix of green and blue, you'll likely have a neutral undertone. The jewelry test is another way that you can test out and figure out what your undertone might be. If you look better in silver jewelry, you may be a cooler toned. If you can pull off silver or gold, you may try a neutral tone foundation. If you only look good in gold jewelry, or you feel you look your best in gold jewelry, this is all subjective because you can wear whatever jewelry you want, but it's really just about what complements my skin. Another good way to check it is your clothing. Do you look good in lavender? I don't. Do you look good in pure white? I don't. I look better in creams. If you are someone who can wear a pure white garment and look amazing, you may have a cooler undertone. Your skin color does not mean that you have a cool undertone. If you are a brown skin woman, you can absolutely have a red undertone, you can have a neutral or olive undertone, or you can have a golden undertone. This just comes with figuring out the foundation, and trust me, honey, you will know. If you have on the wrong undertone foundation, you will know. Like I said in the beginning, you'll either be looking casket sharp or you'll be looking like a Oompa Loompa. There's no way around it. If your foundation is more neutral and you are a golden type of girl, when you put it on, you'll be looking gray. That's how you know it's not the right one. Simple and plain. If you put on a foundation and it looks too yellow or too golden or too peachy on you, and you're like, the shade looks good in the bottle, but the undertone is off. If you put on a foundation and your skin looks red, it's pulling too red, you need to try a different one because that's not your undertone. Does that make sense? I know it's a lot with undertones, but it's really just about trial and error and knowing. Like I said, one of the best ways to try for me is to know, what do I look good in? And I don't look good in icy colors at all. Okay, let's get to the fun stuff. It's time to play in some makeup. There are a couple of ways that you can apply your foundation. This is just a preference, but I will say that if you are using a beauty sponge or a beauty blender, this is going to give you a more sheer application. So when you're tapping in your product, because it's going to be absorbed by the sponge. So if you don't like a lot, or you just want to have a more sheer application, you can just use a beauty sponge. I like to use a brush. I don't know if that's just the makeup artist in me. I don't like to put foundation on my hands or rub it in with my fingers, but you do you. In your household, it's absolutely fine to put foundation on with your fingers. Just make sure it's blended. Go back over it with a sponge or with a brush. I prefer a dense type of brush like this one from Morphe. It has a dense head. It's round, so when you put the product on, you can tap it into place, or you can buff it into place for a more airbrush look. This is my preferred tool of choice. You can also do something that is like this angled one from BK Beauty. It still has firm bristles, but it gives you a more application if you want to apply your foundation like so. It's up to you. They do different things. If you want something sheer, go with the beauty sponge. If you want application or more coverage, go with a brush. One quick tip that I want to go back to as far as shade matching and undertones, it is always better to go a little bit darker, a hair darker, than it is to go lighter. You can correct a darker foundation with concealer, with blush, and things like that. You cannot do anything if your foundation is too light. You're not going to be able to correct all that with bronzer. You're going to be looking a hot mess, okay? So when in doubt, if it's just a shade darker or a hair darker, go with the darker. Don't go with the lighter. We're not trying to have us out here looking like the Saw mask or anything. No, that's what people say. I don't want to look like a clown. Your foundation too light, baby. This down here is gold. This up here is white. That ain't going to work. So when in doubt, If you have to go with a shade or hair just a little bit darker, go darker, don't go lighter. And of course, my beauty sponge rolled all the way back there, but that's cool. That's why we got another one. So I sometimes will put my foundation on the back of my hand, and I guess we'll use the House Labs and do this, but I don't put foundation on my face like this because I can't control the amount of coverage. If you put it on the back of your hand or on your makeup palette like this one, you can shear it out a little bit before you put it on. So I'm just going to show you on the back of my hand. I take my foundation with my brush, and just to get it a little bit warm, and then I apply it on my face. This gives you more control. It gives you control over where the foundation is placed, and then you can build it up. When you're applying foundation, you want to work in layers. You don't want to do too much too soon, because you can always add to, but you can't take away. So start with a pump like this. And one pump, 1.5 is normally just fine for application. And then I just go in like this, like I said, and just kind of tap my brush in. And this gives you, again, more control over the product placement. Where's my mirror? I'm looking at y'all and I need a mirror. And this will give you control over how much product is applied, because you really don't need as much foundation as you think. And once I have it tapped into place, and then I go in and brush it like so, kind of buffing my skin like this. And then I just move on to the other side, do the same over here, take whatever's left and do the same process on the other side. So everyone thinks, if you're a beginner, let me speak for me. When I was a beginner makeup artist, I thought makeup artists were getting flawless foundation looks because they were using a bunch of product. And I learned that this technique of warming it up on your hand and applying it that way is going to give you a lot more coverage. More product does not mean more coverage. It just means more product on your face. So I don't put any additional foundation on my forehead. That's just a preference. I just use whatever's left on the brush, and then I just buff my forehead back towards my hairline. My forehead doesn't need a lot of foundation. I need the most coverage on my cheeks, and then I just go back over it. But you don't want to stop here, and no, you need to blend. So I'm going to show you how I blend the rest of this foundation all the way down. So your face doesn't stop here. You don't want to see any lines of demarcation right here. You want to blend back towards your hairline. Make sure you have foundation all the way down your neck. Yes, this is important. I know it's important though, because you don't want these two things to be a different color, because we gonna know. I'ma clock it. So when you're blending your foundation, you start in the middle, work your way out, and then just work your way down. And then if you want to take your sponge, you can use a damp beauty sponge, not wet, and just go over the areas. Just make sure everything is blended in. You can also use this to kind of take away some of the product if you want to, but really I just use my sponge just to blend in the product more. And I'm going to do the second layer of foundation with the sponge so you can see how I do that as well. But it's basically the same. I warm it up on the back of my hand, tap the foundation on my sponge, and do the same. With the sponge, you don't want to swirl it. You just want to tap it in and blend it. Just blend it like so. Seamless, right? Voila. Another thing to avoid when you're using a beauty sponge is not putting the product on the sponge. I got some on here because I got it on my pants and I just wiped it on the sponge. Y'all gotta know it's some bloopers that goes on behind the scenes over here. I don't show y'all half the stuff that goes on. It's like National Lampoon's Vacation some days. But you just want to take your foundation, and I'm not going to use a lot because we already put so much on, and then you can do the same thing and just tap it into your hand. But squirting the foundation on your sponge, no, it's going to absorb too much product and you're going to waste it. And then I'm just going to take foundation where I think I need a little bit more on the butt of here. And then this is how you apply it with a beauty sponge. Some people apply it with the tip. It's totally up to you. It's a sponge, so either way. That's it. Okay, beauty, so I finished my face offline. I just did a little blush and powder, a little bit of concealer and things like that, so we can wrap this up. So let's go over some of the things that we discussed earlier in the video. Number one, determining what type of foundation you like to wear. If it's liquid, if it's powder, finding your shade is going to work the same with even the liquid, powder, or cream foundation. If you're a little older like me and your skin is maturing, I suggest a liquid foundation to start, especially if you're someone who is not used to wearing foundation, or you haven't worn it in a while, or you only wear it on occasion. Get a liquid foundation because they're more versatile. They come in more shades. They're easier to apply and things like that. So start with a liquid foundation. That's just my recommendation. Do whatever it is that you please. But for me, if I was suggesting for a beginner or someone who is just getting into makeup, I would suggest going with a liquid formula type of foundation. Secondly, when it comes to matching your foundation, that's going to be something that is trial and error. And again, because our skin changes throughout the seasons, it's okay if you have more than one foundation, because it's not going to look the same as it would in the summer. Your winter color is not going to look the same. So we all know that our colors change. Like I said, I went back to my pale winter shade. My tan has faded from the summer, but I have to adjust the foundation. So if you have one or two, you have one for the summer, one for the winter, that's totally fine. Invest in your complexion products. If that's the one thing I would say to save up for, is to get a good quality foundation. If you need recommendations, I will have my foundation recommendations linked below, and you can kind of browse through those. Those are all the foundations that I love and that I wear frequently. And lastly, with application, when you're blending, whether you're using a beauty blender, sponge, or a brush, you need to blend the foundation into your skin, either by buffing it in like I showed you, or tapping it in with the sponge, and make sure you're blending it back to your forehead, back to your ears, and down to your neck, because you don't want any demarcation. Somebody can say, oh, she's wearing foundation, because it stops right here. And this is light, and this is foundation. We don't want none of that. So beauties, I said I was going to try to keep this around 10 minutes, and I know it's longer than that. So if you made it this far through the video, I hope that you would give this video a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that I'm out here doing my thing. I appreciate the growth I'm seeing on the channels, and I appreciate you guys always communicating with me in the comments below. If you haven't already, consider hitting that subscribe button if you would like to have more makeup tips, more makeup reviews, product reviews, and just having a general good time over here on the channel. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. I will likely see you guys back here after Thanksgiving, because it is Thanksgiving week. I'll be posting this on the Monday before Thanksgiving. So after that, we'll be taking a quick break, but we'll be back with the goodies afterwards. And I have plenty for you guys to watch on the channel. Feel free to go through the playlist and my previous videos and leave a comment. I always respond to the comments, so leave a comment below should you have any particular questions. Have a good holiday, and I will see y'all back here real soon. Bye.